There's a specific kind of place that doesn't just feel remote, it feels like it's actively rejecting you. No runway, no roads, no, just take an Uber from the airport. Only jungle, only mountains, only sweat, rivers, and the kind of silence that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. And somewhere inside that green wall is a city built before Machu Picchu was even a headline. A city that was swallowed by the forest for centuries. A city that people looted, fought over, and then learned to fear. Because here's the twist. This lost city isn't lost anymore. We know where it is. We know it exists. And still, most people will never set foot inside it. Not because it's impossible to reach, but because you're not supposed to. Today, the lost city in the jungle no one can enter, and the real reason the world is asked to keep its distance. Deep in northern Colombia, hidden in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, there's an ancient settlement known to outsiders as Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City. But the name that matters most isn't Spanish. The Tairona people called it Tayuna. Not ruins, not archaeology. A living sacred place, part of a spiritual landscape that still matters right now. And that's the first reason this story is different from your typical lost civilization documentary. Because this isn't just ancient history, this is also modern religion, modern identity, modern territory. The Sierra Nevada is home to indigenous communities, often named as Kogi, Wiwa, Arhuaco, and Kankuamo, who consider the wider region sacred and continue to protect it. And that protection isn't symbolic. It's physical, it's political, and it shapes what outsiders are allowed to do there. Tayuna was built long before tourists were hiking with selfie sticks and hydration packs. One account describes it as built around 800 CE, making it centuries older than many people assume when they picture lost cities in the Americas. Then came the Spanish conquest along Colombia's Caribbean coast, violent, destabilizing, and catastrophic for indigenous societies in the region. Over time, communities moved away from exposed settlements and deeper into terrain that was harder to invade. And that's where the jungle did what the jungle does best. It erased the roads, it swallowed the terraces, it buried a city in vines and rain and time. Tayuna didn't crumble, it disappeared. Not in a dramatic Hollywood collapse, just a slow, green forgetting. Most lost city stories have a triumphant discovery. A scientist with a notebook, a careful excavation, a respectful unveiling. Tayuna's rediscovery wasn't like that. It was reportedly stumbled upon by tomb raiders in the early 1970s. People hunting for gold and artifacts, not knowledge. And once looting starts, it rarely stays quiet. Word spreads, more people come. And the first thing that's mapped is not the history. It's the fastest way to extract valuables and vanish. Even today, writing about looted heritage forces an uncomfortable truth. Once objects leave, they almost never come back to the descendants who made them. So imagine what this place becomes in the years after the looters. Not a protected archaeological site, not a pilgrimage, a rumor, a money machine hidden in the rainforest. Now, technically, tourists do visit Ciudad Perdida. But here's where the title becomes true in a very real-world way. You can't just go. You can't wander in solo. You can't improvise a route. You can't explore off-trail. Modern access is tightly controlled. The site is reached by a multi-day trek, and accounts note it's reached only on foot via professionally led hikes that can take 4 to 6 days. And there's a deeper reason for those controls than the jungle is hard. The indigenous communities in the Sierra Nevada consider Tayuna sacred and conduct rituals there. A mamo, meaning a spiritual authority, is described as living at the highest point of the city, and the site is closed in September, so spiritual cleansing and pilgrimage can take place. That closure is the key. It's not just a tourism schedule, it's a boundary, a reminder that this place isn't a theme park built for the outside world. And even when it's open, the journey itself functions like a filter. The jungle heat, the river crossings, the steep climbs. It selects who arrives and in what state. Because by the time you climb the final stone steps, you're not conquering a lost city. You're exhausted, quiet, and suddenly aware that you're walking into someone else's sacred geography. Most ruins announce themselves with walls. Tayuna doesn't. It reveals itself in shapes, Stone circles, terraces, and pathways carved into a mountainside, surrounded by towering trees. It feels less like arriving at a dead city, and more like stumbling into a place that's been waiting for you to stop talking. And it makes you wonder, how many people passed within a few kilometers of this place over the centuries, never realizing a city was above them? How many storms hit these mountains while the terraces sat under leaves, unchanged? How many times did the world outside shift? Empires rising, borders redrawn, technologies invented while Tayuna stayed quiet? The creepiest part is that it wasn't destroyed. It just went offline. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The jungle isn't the main reason this city is hard to enter. People are, not the indigenous communities protecting it, the outsiders who keep trying to turn it into property. In one modern account, the region was off limits for years during Colombia's era of armed conflict, and later reopened to guided hikes once conditions improved. Even after reopening, the story of Tayuna carries memories of violence, looting, and exploitation that never fully vanish. So, when access is restricted, it isn't only about protecting stones from footsteps, it's about protecting a living culture from becoming another attraction that gets stripped, sold, and forgotten. That's why the most accurate way to describe this city is not the lost city we found, but the city we are being allowed to visit carefully. And that permission can be withdrawn, because permission is the entire point. There's a certain mindset that modern travel encourages. I paid, I traveled, I deserve to see it. Tayuna rejects that attitude. If you ever stand on those terraces, the one rule isn't take nothing but photos. The real rule is simpler. Act like you're a guest, because you are. This isn't a blank spot on a map waiting for your footsteps to make it real. It's real already. Real enough that people still make pilgrimages there, and real enough that the outside world is told, sometimes to stay away. The jungle didn't just hide a city, it hid a lesson. That exploration isn't always heroic. That discovery isn't always harmless. And that some of the most important places on Earth aren't lost. They're protected. So the next time someone says, there's nowhere left to explore, remember Tayuna, Ciudad Perdida. We found it, and we still can't truly enter it, unless the people who guard it decide we should. What do you think? Should places like this be off limits entirely, or accessible with strict rules?